All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Highly Unlikely with Josh and Jenaye and friends that are always joining us. We have some great friends that are with us today, and we're going to jump into that conversation in a second. But why don't you all just tell everybody your name and your favorite thing to do in this season of your life right now? Easy question, right?
Started that in.
Yeah.
Thank you. My name is Ruby Paul, and I work here at the church. My favorite thing to do, of course, is to spend time with my family and my grandkids. Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's great.
And I'm Diane Freitag, the pastor for the senior adults. And the favorite thing to do, probably when I get home, to sit in my big chair and just chill, and then think of supper. And I don't get to be around my kids very much, maybe on the weekends because everybody's so busy. But just to have them in my life too. And I used to be one that would do all kinds of crafts, but I let all that go on the garage sale because I just don't have time for it now.
Yeah.
And you put your energies to what is the most important, I guess. And with that, you're satisfied.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm Diane, the other Diane Haan. And it's the time of the year that I really, really enjoy. It's spring. So I have much more time to be outside, and the walks outside are much more pleasant. I'm not sliding and starting seeds indoors. So, yeah.
Because you really love gardening.
I
right?
love gardening.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
I do remember that.
I think very often when I preach about planting or farming or gardening, I get a very sweet note from Diane about the message or something she took from it, because I know you love that concept.
It applies.
It applies.
Yes.
Yeah. So, okay. Well, we want to have a conversation today about your guys' experience in your lives, because you have a few things in common, which are you've all been a part of Evangel.
You're all over 50.
You're all over 50, barely.
I was going to say that.
Barely over 50. You all love Jesus and have served him for a good season of your life. And all of you went through the same experience in the last 3 to 8 years of losing your husbands. And so part of why I was excited for this conversation, and even what I've processed in my life, is you see people walk through a change in season of their life, whether it's maybe going through something like losing a spouse or a major life change. And sometimes they just kind of disappear with that change, and they really struggle to recover. And there's no condemnation. Like, people go through really, really difficult things, and loss is a really, really difficult thing, no matter how it happens. But I've seen all of you almost in a way like transform your life into a new season when that change came. And so we just wanted to sit down and have a conversation about, how did you do that? What does life look like? What are the things that we were talking about it a little bit before the podcast, but like, what are the things that have been hard, or even that people say that aren't helpful? We talked about that with adoption. Some of the things people would ask or they would say, where you're like, that's not super helpful, or that's one of the things I cringe at when people say it. And really, I know a couple of you taught a session of how do you get off the couch? And so maybe even the topic today is, how did you, after walking through the journey that you went through.
And we'll probably touch on and get into, there are some people that are younger that have experienced losing a spouse, but also there is the demographic of people who are in the last half of their life or last quarter of their life. And how do you still have godly purpose? Because I feel like each one of you, in your own way, you have not stopped serving Jesus. You're not taking yourself out of kingdom work. And so I know we love and admire that about each one of you. And even just your willingness. I'll never forget asking Diane to lead a Connect group. And it was just just this beautiful display of yet another opportunity to die to self. Because it was like, I don't know if I really want to do this or
Still
can.
feel that way. Yes.
But yeah, so that's just what we love about you guys. But maybe you kick off with a more specific question.
Yeah, I mean, my first question is, why do you think some people struggle to kind of restart, or I think one of the questions that I even asked you when we were preparing, or I ran into you guys while you were preparing, was, is there a guilt associated with, your spouse has passed away and now you're still here? Or what is it that stops people from getting off the couch?
Right.
Like, do you guys have any thoughts on that?
Well, probably every couple has dreams that they want to see fulfilled. And so when one of the spouse dies, the dream goes by the wayside. And so you got to start dreaming again all by yourself. And the thing is, like, can I do this? But like with me, ministry was all I have known since I was 12. And so, and I think all three of us, it wasn't a shock when they died. It was all over a long process. So we were preparing ourselves if the Lord didn't heal them, what the ultimate would be.
Yeah.
And so you begin to think, how would I do this if my husband wasn't here? And some things had to go. We were living on a 2-acre place when it happened in the bigger home, and I stayed there for about 6 months after he passed. And so in the fall, it was getting ready for winter, but then there was all the mowing and the tree patch. He hadn't been able to do that. And so then winter came, and it was a heavy snow that year, and I couldn't do all that shoveling. Then the neighbors came to try to help me, and I felt guilty of they had big homes and big driveways and everything to shovel, and then they would come over and help me, and it was awful hard for me to accept help because I felt like and they said they didn't feel obligated and they enjoyed doing that, but on the other end, it's hard to receive help in those times, and yet you need it. And so just working through attitudes and thinking, okay, I've got to make decisions on my own. It's nice when you have family around, but you don't have family around. You could ask. And,
Have this family.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, she just lost her sister not too long ago, and now she doesn't have her to visit with and talk over things. So things that you try to prepare yourself, and yet when it happens, it's just like you go blank for a while.
Right.
As far as guilt, though, I think probably all of us were caregivers, and I'm not going to speak for everybody, but at the beginning, it was like there's really not much reason to get up, because that's been your life. But then, after a while, you're going, man, I can do these things. You're leaving the house, and you're not worrying about anything, and it's like, this really feels wrong to be doing this. I shouldn't be enjoying it, or life at all, And so, that takes a while to. And even if you were doing good things, it was just that your schedule was freer. So,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I can relate to that. Diane and I would meet. We were caretakers. And every once in a while, we would meet in Walmart because you have to go to Walmart and get some things. That was a happening place for us.
we thought it was an outing.
Yeah, it was kind of an outing because we'd be there, but then we knew we had to get back home.
Right,
We couldn't be gone for long.
Yes,
But guilt is definitely a part, I think, of the grieving process because
it is.
I too, after Tom passed, I'd come home and I'd change clothes and then walk out of the house, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I never used to do this.
Yeah.
And you kind of learn to, like, you think, I don't ever want to take this for granted that I can do this.
Yes.
But you do feel guilty because like with Tom, it's only been like 3 years, but I mean, we've had grandchildren since then. Kids have gotten different jobs. I mean,
Yes.
all the things that they miss, and I feel so bad about that.
Yeah.
I feel, man, I wish he could have been here, to see all of this. And then sometimes you just...
You're experiencing it all, and he
and
isn't.
he's not.
Yeah.
And so at the beginning, you really, it's like you don't even want to be happy because it's like, oh my gosh. But
Yeah.
And what are people going to think?
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Was there a specific action or moment that helped you find closure after experiencing loss? I think sometimes that's where people get stuck, is they just can't, they kind of get stuck in grief or in mourning. And I think you always, miss that person, but was there something that helped bring
Yeah, or
closure?
maybe help us with that. Is there a point of closure, or are you still grieving? Are there still
Yeah, or
moments
does it
that
not
make you
feel
go,
like
oh, yeah.
I think you don't ever get over it. You just move forward. But going to grief share within a month after Tom passed was huge in my not recovery, but in the process. The 4 gals that I was at a table with there, I had only met one of them before. Still, almost 8 years later, we meet monthly because we've just bonded. At the beginning, it was, there was tears, and now we're just friends.
Yeah.
We just happen to have the same background, so that was a big deal.
Yeah.
Knowing somebody, being with somebody else who's experiencing the same thing. Mm-hmm. But you also mentioned a moment. There's many people, when somebody's been suffering, very well-intentioned will say he's in a better place. And I know that. But it was Dean Meyer that said to me, that's true, but even if he were on a missions trip and in Africa doing wonderful things, you would still miss him.
Yeah.
And I was like, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's great perspective for
It is.
people who are coming trying to help comfort from the only perspective we understand, which is not,
No.
we've not walked through what you guys have walked through. Oh, that's a great.
It was, for my closure, was he died at home. And when I sold the house and moved into town, it was like a new beginning.
Yeah.
That I wasn't reminded walking by every day the bedroom that he was in.
Yeah.
And it was a hard thing to like go through his clothes. I put it off and I put it off because his clothes was just on the other side of mine. So I saw it every time I went in to get something. And so one day I just said, today's the day. I can't put it off. I've got this home up for sale. I've got to deal with it. So I put praise music on, and I praised my way through it. And he had really nice suits and everything, and I thought, man, it's a shame that these suits and all his clothes are good quality, to just take him to the secondhand store. And the Lord spoke to my heart about a pastor who just in December, and all this is like in maybe February, it was like anybody could bring anything to exchange. So I asked our presbyter if I could bring some men's clothing and let him shop. He said, yes, if you want to. He said, that'd be great. So I did. And with Leon's size, long arms, long legs, I didn't know how it was all, but there was one pastor that everything he tried on fit, and he was from a small church. And so he said, give him a call. So I did. And I said, come and shop in my house. Just come and shop if you want to.
Yeah.
So they came, and I went downstairs. I showed him where everything was, and he was up there trying on things. I said, you don't have to take it all, but take what you want. They were up there giggling and trying on things. And when they decided to go, they were piling up their car. They loved everything. He said, I'm going to be the best dressed pastor. But see, that helped me to know that he could use those things and it didn't bother him. And then as they were going, I thought, oh, the closet's right here, and I have all these wool long clothes when he had to go to bury somebody in a cold winter setting. I said, try that on, will it fit? And so I had all the winter stuff to give him too. Everything was just like it was made in heaven for him.
Yeah.
And so I got a joy out of that, which could have been such a downer.
Yeah.
But God turned it around for me. He won't do that to everybody, but that's how he helped me, that there was closure on that.
Yeah.
And in praising. And then the same thing when you somehow haven't moved from your home, but like when I was going to a smaller home, I had all this beautiful crystal that people would give me when I played for weddings or things. And so I knew I couldn't take everything. So I had everything on the table, and then to just choose 3 out of maybe a dozen, that was hard.
Yeah.
But it's constantly releasing.
Yeah.
You can't take everything with. And the kids don't want any of your stuff. So you go to the secondhand store, and I walked in here, and all the way along the pathway was china sets and everything that happened in other people's lives, and nobody wants what you have.
Yeah.
And so that doesn't hit your kids till they're about 50, 60 years old. Then they want something that dad had or whatever. But
Wow.
it's constantly releasing.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
We take a lot of pictures of things before you get rid of them.
That's smart.
Very smart.
Just remember.
Yeah.
So maybe there's somebody listening who's walking through this, or they're trying to figure out how to move forward with their life. I know you guys have given a lot of thought to that, or you've all experienced it yourself. Is there a piece of advice for somebody who is trying to figure out, what do I do? I'm still here, and how do I find purpose in this new season? Is it okay for me to find purpose in this new season? If you could just speak like to that person who's probably listening right now.
What do you wish someone could have said to you when you were
what helped you to hear
in the thick of it?
Well, I think for me, being involved in a church is huge. I think we can all agree on that. But I did 2 attend Grief Share a year after Tom passed. And I thought that was really beneficial because you don't know if what you're doing or where you're at or anything is, if it's right. It's not like it's a right and wrong thing, but then you realize everyone has the same questions, the same concerns, the same, and it's an area, it's a place where you're free to talk, and people are genuinely concerned or listening because they're going through the same thing. And so I think that's very helpful and beneficial.
I think getting out of myself too, it's just doing something for others, serving in the church, or I did a lot more cooking for other people and delivering meals during that time. It was just that was kind of a healing process to do something for somebody else, and that helped me as much as it helped them.
Just makes me think of the scripture that says, as you refresh others, you yourself will be refreshed.
Yes.
Right?
Yes,
I love when it's the
True.
practicality of truth, where you're like, oh, Lord,
Yes.
you know what you're talking about. It's true.
True.
Yeah.
That first month can be very stressful in that you're closing out things, credit cards, all kinds of things, and then you talk to somebody and ask a question. Well, I don't handle that. I'll send you on to somebody else. So you talk to somebody else, go, there's somebody else in here that would know better than I. After about 5 people, you're back to the first one. And I finally said I was almost getting agitated enough, and I spilled. And I said,
Diane, that's the difference between me and you. I would have been angry, and you're like, I was almost getting agitated.
well, I tried to keep my dignity and not, but I said, it's really something. You have this big department, and not any of you know any of the answers.
And she says it's so nice. I would have been like, really?
There was times over the counter, I just laid my head down and had to cry because I couldn't get help. And I had to get this stuff done to get something else done. You had to have this done.
You're overwhelmed with paperwork at the beginning.
Running here and there. You go down to the courthouse and they send you up here, and then they said, go down to the courthouse. I already been down there. And they sent me up to you. And your days go like that you're just fighting through the procedure of things and the process. And I'd have to say, oh, Lord, I almost lost it today. I'm sorry. But dealing with emotions that I had never really dealt with before.
Yeah.
But know that God was there helping me. I just call out to his name. And after a month, I sat in the chair and I said, okay, Lord, it's you and me now. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I still feel like I have something to give, but I don't know what or where. And I said, I don't even know if I could do it alone anymore, because for 53 years we did it as a team.
Yeah.
And he said, Diane, I called you as a little girl, and you know what? The call of God is still on you. And I said, well, if you have something for me, you're going to have to drop it in my lap, because I don't know where to go to beg, and I wouldn't know what to beg for. A month later, he sees me at a meeting and comes over and asks me.
In the meantime, I was praying, going, Lord, I need somebody. I need somebody.
Lord, who? Yeah.
Who's the person?
Who is it?
And so that was in November, and in January I was sitting in my office. The Lord dropped it in my lap. And somebody said to me not too long ago, how much longer are you going to keep doing this? I said, I don't know, but when the Lord's done with me, you'll take it off my lap and I'll know it. Until then, I'm going to give it all I got. So that's why I'm living.
I love that.
Great.
I love that. And that's why we have you guys on this podcast, because I feel we've seen that in all of you, where it's just like there's a grit to you, like a sanctification grit. You know what I mean? That how do I want to word it? How do you not lose that? How do you not? Because I'm sure physically you're tired. Like I'm getting more tired now in my 30s. Like as you get older, we know the outer garment wears, right?
Yes.
How do you not grow weary spiritually? How do you not lose your fervor for the Lord? Like, I mean,
You're talking to him. I'm talking to him all day long. And just like I say, sometimes I'll just go home before I start the meal and just sit there in the Lord's presence and just feel refreshed. And if I fall asleep, I fall asleep. I'm not feeling guilty about it. And because you have to keep nurturing yourself, or if you push too much, you'll end up where you don't have anything to give. Then you're running on empty, and I don't ever want to come to that point.
Yeah.
There is being alone. I mean, you do have that opportunity at any time. If your body's saying, I don't feel like sleeping in the middle of the night, you can get up, the lights, turn on the lights. You can spend time then. You can talk out loud. You just hope that the windows aren't open because the neighbors are starting to wonder. But there's more opportunity in ways you're not doing it together, but you don't have the schedule that you normally would. But I think, one of the things I've just found, and that's true spiritually too, it takes a different boldness. You have to be the one activating. I mean, you can't be sitting there waiting for an opportunity to come to you, you know.
Yeah.
And so you need to be the one that's reaching out, and that's to become part of a group, or you know. But being part of a group is huge as far as, for me, is I need to be accountable, and so to be a part of a connect group, Brostrom's connect group has been family to me,
Yeah.
you know, from through the years. But
And I know you mentioned that even before we started recording, you said like, this is my family. Because that's the one probably bigger difference is
yes,
Diane, closest to me, doesn't have as much, have family, like biological family around.
no.
And the other two you do. But I love that you said like, no, this is my family. Like
it
the
is.
church has been my
Yeah.
family. And I just think that's so beautiful.
It's been proven. I mean, it was the church being the church. I mean, the family just came together
Yeah.
at different times, and they're saying, you know, you're finally letting us do something for you. But I mean, there was meals while Tom was really sick, and then, I mean, just help in every phase with Tom's death and then my sister's death at both
Right.
times. So, yes.
I feel like for me, that's when, I mean, what's fun to think about is I remember kind of the moment when I realized each of you was going to keep on moving forward, you know? And it was, Diane, you just started showing up and serving everywhere at the church, and you were present and a part of things. I remember my conversation with Pastor Diane when I asked her about coming on staff, and I think your response was like,
I just remember that. Both hands to your mouth.
Yeah. And but then you stepped into that. And Ruby, I just remember when you were going to take a vacation for the first time
I
in 30
know,
years.
isn't that something?
But it was
Now
like-
I've taken a few.
Yeah, it was like
Yeah.
Ruby's going to Disney, you know, and we were all like, "She's what?"
I was like the Super Bowl winner.
yeah.
But yeah,
But
Yeah.
there are these kind of like, I mean, in my mind, I don't know if that was true for you guys, but I remember just in my mind taking note of, oh, like they've walked through so much, and I'm so thankful
Right.
that they're taking a step forward with family, or taking a step forward and doing something that they've wanted to do, you know? One of the other questions we had talked about was, I know your friends change, you know, because you probably have friends that you were friends with when you were a couple, and then it's just
Or yeah,
different.
what you were invited to because you were invited as a couple. Do you guys want to speak to that? What was that experience for you? How has that changed?
Did you have to find new community? What did that
Yeah.
look like?
It just happened just this past weekend going to network conference.
So
After-
just for those who don't have a reference point, Pastor Diane and her husband served as the superintendent over a whole bunch of pastors, and that group
The
gathered.
position which is over us.
Yeah, right. And that group
us.
gathered this last week. So
So here it's 7 years, almost 7 years in, and it hit me. I didn't feel like I belonged.
Yeah.
The couples that we used to go with and eat, and the presbyters and chatter and be with the women and all that, I gravitated to two younger widow ministers' wives while I was up there. We went out to lunch, and I let them talk through what they were going through. One is just fresh, maybe a couple months ago. And when I got in the car to come home, there was such a heaviness, like a shift happened. Like, even though I went and talked to them as a couple or whatever, it was not the same. I don't know if they felt anything about it, but then I come down here and I was supposed to talk to the Cancer Connect group, and the first thing was, we were going to go around the table and tell our highs and our lows. And I thought, do I say anything? but I did. I just said, I just had a low. I'm coming off in here now. I'm going to talk to you how I survived this all. And I said, but I'm still in training, because that taught me what a woman, or what a widow feels like, or a man, a widower. Where do you fit?
Yeah.
So God placed another widow come to me right away, and she wanted me to sit with her because she was alone. And so I spent my time, and yet I was also with married couples, but it was like a defining moment. And how am I going to do that for the rest of my life when parties or whatever, and I'm the only single one there or whatever?
Yeah.
I can't shut down. I still want to be who I am. But it just also let me know in the lives of people that I am dealing with now, the senior adults. Sometimes widows don't want to come to things because they feel the odd one out, or they don't have the energies, or the fun of it is gone. And yet they sit in their home quiet then. So it's a dimension that we're still walking through things that all of a sudden it hit. Like I said, I'm 7 years into this, and it hit me for the first time.
Interesting.
I think the other thing that changes too is, you would go to movies or you go out to eat. Well, wanting to do that alone is, kind of have to be a little adventurous, and I'm not quite like that. So I if you want to go out to eat, it's like, oh, okay, I don't, that's not the same. So that kind of changes as well.
I just think
your
back to what
activities.
Diane said about like a different kind of boldness, maybe is what you said, or courage.
Yeah.
Right. Being the activator, or the one that
Yeah.
activates it. But
Yeah.
So I've talked to a few people who have lost a spouse, and it's like, hey, have you ever gone to a movie by yourself? And they'll say, well, I've gone, but it feels weird, So there's things like that.
no one to share with afterwards. It's like,
you go to the movie and then you go home.
yeah.
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 But Diane was saying, too, having been left out, I mean, it's a couple's world. I mean, everything. You look at BOGOs, you buy one, you get one free. It's like, well, that doesn't really help me. But,
Take it home and have it for supper.
it's enough for 4 meals. You can work the system. That's way, I've done that. But, there was things that we were invited to as couples, and not anymore. And I love my female friends. But I miss the company of men. Not that I am searching at all. It's just nice to get a man's perspective on things. But and I think I probably did the same thing before it happened to me. I would just think, well, they won't be comfortable, and so that does.
Yeah. Do you think it's? Do you think people don't know what to do, or they think they're being helpful?
True. That's what I did. Yeah.
Yeah. So would you say if we're friends with someone who has lost their spouse, what should we do? Should we always still invite like we used to? Should we just treat it the same?
Should we ask about
Give
their
them the
spouse?
choice.
Yeah,
Yeah,
say,
exactly.
are you comfortable? You're invited if you're comfortable in coming. Then it's up to them. It's not on your shoulders.
Yeah.
That you feel you got to pick and choose now, or they feel like, yeah, they didn't want me. I'm out. At least you put it out there.
And you don't have to even it out. Okay, I've invited one more person. Now I should either invite another man or another woman to be,
Has anyone, I was not planning on asking this question, has anyone tried to set you up with another person or encourage dating?
Encourage, yes.
Should we cover that topic? What should we do with that?
I had somebody come after my event the other night, and she said, my husband and I are going to start praying that you'll get a husband. It's too lonely for you to be doing this all by yourself.
Was that a blessing to you?
I just looked at her.
I don't know what to think about that.
Okay, you can pray.
I think that's another instance where if there is someone, they'll have to drop it in our lap.
Yes. Yeah, never say
Right.
never, but
yeah.
no.
Right.
It'd have to be a God thing.
Right.
'Cause
That's what we love about you guys, where it's like, you're just going to trust the Lord with whatever it is.
Yeah. Ruby, you're a little bit younger than the Dianes
Yes.
over here. And
Yes,
so
you are.
it makes your situation a little bit more unique, or, and we don't even have to talk about this, but you were talking about just the use of the word widow,
Yeah.
and a widow is associated with
Josh used air
somebody.
quotes
Sorry,
there
I
for
used
those of
air
you
quotes
listening.
for those of you
I
listening.
can't see him.
But it's quote unquote associated with people who are older.
That's true.
And how was some of these questions could vary in your experience just from, being a little bit younger. And
Yeah.
so is there anything there?
I just remember when I left the hospital shortly after Tom passed, and I'm walking through the halls with my kids, and I'm thinking, I'm a widow. And then I thought, oh, this is weird. And then just, we talked about that earlier, that, we just don't really like that word, but I don't know what else we could use. But it just seems like such a defining word that you don't really want to be defined by.
I mean, look at your forms.
Right.
It is, you're either married, single, divorced, or widowed.
But I think what you said is really insightful, because like on the forms, it's how you're defined, but that's different than allowing it be what you're defined by.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
when I was driving to work today, the Lord dropped in my mind a picture of a canvas. And we're each given a canvas that we will tell our story on that canvas by how we paint it. But then the Lord just brought to my mind, there's dark colors and there's light colors, and they both need to be there for contrast. You can't have all one color. And so as we paint it, everybody's canvas will look different, and sometimes we can get upset or in turmoil, and we just want to throw the canvas away and get another one. But the Lord just spoke to my heart. If you paint and things aren't going the way you want, you can always paint over it. You don't have to throw it away. You just paint over it. And so every picture that you see will have a contrast, the darker colors, which would be like the hard times in our life that is dark. And then the happy moments are the light, but they all mingle together to make a beautiful masterpiece. And then the Lord just spoke to my heart that when you're painting and you don't know what to do, give him the brush.
Right.
So good.
So
Yeah.
that just soothed my heart today too. That I don't have to make it happen. But each day we are adding to that canvas. And may it be a beautiful picture when we're done.
Yeah.
The highs and the lows,
Yeah.
they mingle together, and it makes a beautiful masterpiece.
Oh,
So-
it's beautiful.
Do you guys have any guidance for people who are wondering? I know we've kind of alluded to like, what will people think? If you get up off the couch,
If you're enjoying life. Yeah.
if you're enjoying life. I mean, do you
Try
have?
a new hobby or
But there's also probably some guidelines there of like, there's some things that you should be careful about until you have closure, until you
yes.
heal. And I mean, is there any guidance for like, is it ever too soon to date? Is it ever too soon to sign up for something new? Do people kind of ignore and suppress the grief they need to go through and just jump into other stuff to distract? And,
I think one thing at Grief Share, they say, everybody grieves very differently. I don't know if there's a certain time that you're done, or like you had mentioned before about closure or that defining moment. I don't know if I ever really had that defining moment, that I have closure. I just think time has a way of healing.
Right.
Healing. So I don't know. I think, everyone is different and will go walk through it so differently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really do. And, like you said, each case is different and it depends, on how they died. And my father-in-law remarried within 11 months after Tom's mom died. And he called it a 16-year honeymoon until she died. It was, but there's some people that absolutely can't be alone. And then, but there's also people that jump into it so quickly that they're just transferring.
Right.
That
Yeah.
you'd almost need to go to a counselor and have that.
Well,
pulled
maybe the
apart.
red flags too would be with anything as far as if it's obviously compromising, or
yes.
obviously,
Yeah.
not a healthy pairing or something like that, then you have to look a little deeper and go, am I trying to accommodate for something, or is this the next best thing in my life, And I mean, I even think of Diane stepping into the job that she did, it's like it was a fit, and it was the right time and it was something she was skilled for. So there's kind of that common sense, that's
Yeah.
not a red flag thing, but yeah.
Well, that's why the Holy Spirit is so precious, and He will nudge you on different things. Like, feel free, you can enjoy that. And before, I would never have any time with my sisters. In 2 years or coming on 3 years, we all gathered, the four of us, and just spent 3 days together, driving I never had driven all by myself down to the hills, but I just got in the car and said, Lord, you just go with me. We're going to have a good time. I need to do this. And so I'm planning to do that again this summer sometime. You just sometimes have to give yourself permission and say, I can do this with the Lord's help. And it needs to be done because I said, we're all getting older and we never know. We lost one sister already. And so, we got to make good of the time. And you have to be perseverable on things, because if you wait for it to line up, sometimes it won't.
Right.
Somebody has to take charge.
Yeah. No, that's great.
I think too, shortly after, Tom passed, I felt like I had to get everything figured out quickly. Like I just felt, okay, we got to do this and got to do that. And, what am I going to do? And, all these questions. And I think I said it in the last meeting that we had, that I got this devotional from my cousin and I started reading through it, and all I could see was this, be still, be still. And so I think, just giving people permission, you don't have to figure it out right away. Just be still and wait for the Lord to give you that push and nudge, and you'll kind of know when it's time to.
I'm thankful for my boys, but she doesn't have family. But sometimes with the boys, they have a different point of view on things that I don't see or didn't think about, and so they balance me out.
Yeah.
And they're such a blessing to me.
Yeah.
And but like you said, being with other people or men around that can maybe give their opinion about things. I think sometime I was thinking, even in my get-togethers with the older people, to just have a panel and a time where the men and the women can share and people can ask questions. If a person wanted to ask a man a question about something or whatever, that they could feel free to do that. I'm still waiting on the Lord for that, to just see if it would even be of interest. But to get other people's thoughts on things, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm fortunate enough to have what I consider a young man, 45, from the church, that has just been available for everything, to bounce things off or to do things. It's been a gift.
Yeah.
He had been in Tom's Bible study before, and so he has just kept that. I'm trying to think of the right word, but
He's been a good friend, right?
he's been a very good friend.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I just think even how honoring, like for Tom to invest in him, and I just think like how honoring to his group leader who
Yes.
like invested so much into him to honor you in that way. Yeah.
Yeah. Diane, I think you just sharing about your church family has just been inspiring. I know you and I sat down and we had a conversation about family and church family and, and how much you mean to us and, to the people in our church community.
Yeah.
I was thinking about what you just said, though, about this young man that's helped out or, I see young man because he's only a little bit older than me, so I got to just affirm. But what are other things that people did or have done in the last 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years that you were like, that is exactly what somebody who's walked through what I walked through or where I'm at right now that they did that just met the need of them? I think there's just a lot of, I'm even just thinking about, there's a lot of people in our church who are 30, 35, 40 who have lost a spouse too. And it's like you almost, how can I be there for them or how, you do feel that tension, And so what are things that people did that were just so affirming or you felt really seen?
Taking them out for coffee and just letting them talk.
Companionship.
Yeah.
And another thing is, instead of saying, what can I do? Just say, may I bring a meal over? Is there something that you're really hungry for your family? Or does the lawn need mowing? Or be specific?
Rather than putting the decision making on you.
Because they're going to go, no, I'm good.
Yeah.
I think food is always the way for people that are going through grief, isn't it? Because it's like you don't want to think about what you got to make. So
especially if you have a family.
Yeah.
If you're alone, cereal's good.
Plus, you lose your appetite.
Oh,
You just don't even care to eat. I mean,
I would love to say I lost my appetite, but no, you do for a certain time. But cooking and everything is different. You don't, and the food spoils very rapidly.
Right.
Yeah, because you're always buying more, and you just don't get to it. But things like that. But I do feel for women that are younger and have lost their spouses and they have children, I think a need would be just to help out with kids, to be there for the kids.
Those are great ideas.
Well, I'm just struck by the contrast today of sitting with you guys because there's things that I take for granted, we were talking in the kitchen the other day and I was like, Jenaye, I have been eating healthy. When you and the kids, went to see your family this weekend, I made steak with a vegetable. And she goes, could you do that more when we're here? And I was like,
that when I'm home
and I
too?
literally said, well, it's easier to cook for one, and just realizing like, oh, don't take for granted what you have, and I'm even listening to the cadence that you each talk with. And it's like, we're in the middle of like, there's kids and we're, our careers and this
don't miss
and this
school
and
pickup. Yeah, don't forget this.
I'm 10 minutes late for this podcast because I was meeting with and just hearing like a different cadence of like a different pace, which is kind of a beautiful thing, but also like, how do you grow a relationship with the Lord? I just talk to him all day. And I'm like, I think we can all just learn something.
Well, when you're getting in the van or a car and rushing around, you just talk to God all the time.
Yeah. Right.
You got to take those moments.
It's just interesting, or the value of Christian family, or spiritual family around you. Like I'm just hearing these themes of like, you've just had to grapple with things because of what life has brought your way that all of us should be figuring out how to grapple with or how to value now,
I remember, when Tom traveled a lot, it was too much. I mean, it would like sometimes not be able to come home for the weekend. But when he would travel occasionally, I would always say, I don't want a steady diet of this, But it's really kind of fun to just have popcorn with cheese and an apple, you know.
We call those deconstructed meals. It's just 3 separate things.
Right, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
But
Right.
so it's learning, to, like you said, learning to appreciate the times. But
I think one of the biggest things, I think health, of course, is huge. And so I just think just to be healthy is just a huge blessing, and to kind of acknowledge that often, that
Yeah.
it is a huge blessing to be healthy. And,
if you lost your independence right now,
Yeah.
that
Right.
would be huge.
Right.
That would be devastating.
or to being dependent on someone else all the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
I've not experienced that, but I just remember in the middle of COVID when everybody was kind of locked down tight and looking out the window thinking, we didn't know what we had.
Yes.
Like we didn't know what we had. And now that it feels limited, we're all very aware of what we're missing. And I think like what you're saying with health and
That's interesting, because during COVID, I was kind of thinking, now people kind of experiencing what I experienced. You know, they can't, you know,
Yeah.
they're not flying on trips or doing this or
Yes.
going to the restaurants and all that. It was kind of a weird thing to be thinking, but kind of did.
Yeah.
One thing that Leanne prepared me for, I did not like math. They passed me because I was trying. But he just said, you know, I've got to teach you love numbers. When it comes to keeping books and taxes, he did it all. And he said, I got to teach you how to do this. I said, no, I'll make a mess of stuff. I don't like numbers. He said, someday I might be gone and you've got to learn how to do this. And so I was glad that I finally gave in and let him
Yeah.
explain a lot of that stuff to me. And but now I get everything together and take it and hire it out. 'Cause
Probably. Yep.
that's all right. That's all right.
Yeah.
I know none of you would, you know, necessarily sign up. Well, a few of you even to do a podcast, but to talk about a topic like this. But
Yeah.
I think it's part of the thank you for allowing your story to be a blessing to somebody else, even though there's pain and loss in it, you know, and to share with others who are walking through that or will be, you know, and speaking to some of the stuff that they're either feeling or going to feel. You know, I think that's the greatest gift of a church body and the body of Christ is the sharing of our testimony strengthens another person,
Right.
you know, but it takes vulnerability and
the hard
so
parts,
thank you guys.
The hard parts too are the holidays, like Valentine's Eve would always buy me a dozen roses and things like that. And then, so my kids have picked that up, so I still get that.
That's sweet.
That's good.
But a lot of things go by the wayside. You don't, you just take it for granted while you're in the midst of a marriage until it's just cut asunder. And then you got to figure stuff out. Sometimes when I'd have to fix some, I'd just let him do it. And I think, I have to use this. So now what would Leon do? It probably didn't turn out, but I got it so I could work it or whatever. But you have to force yourself, and you hate to keep running and say, could you fix this for me? I do that here with this computer all the time. But but sometimes it's just, you got to just say, for the long haul here, I can't do it, have people do everything for me. I've got to learn how to do this and figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, before we're done, just real quick, last minute thought, but I know you guys prepared a whole bunch and then I come in and, hey, what about this? What about this?
I'm
What
glad you did.
Is there anything that we left on the table that you think I really wanted to say this, or I really wanted to give this thought that we maybe didn't ask about or give attention to?
Don't become a victim.
I love the verse, the scripture, be strong and courageous,
Yeah.
for the Lord is with you, you know. And I think you need that when you're going through some of those I mean, all of those things. It's like, no, I'm not alone, you know?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Anything
Now you're
else?
looking all
You don't
over.
know. You
No,
don't have to. You don't
No,
have to.
I would just say, there's a verse that trust in the Lord with all your heart. And I think that is something you just have to lay it down and trust.
Well, the word does say that the Lord becomes our husband. He's the husband to the widow. And sometimes I have to say, okay, God, what am I going to do with this? And I'll just talk out the process in my prayer.
Right.
I'm having trouble with this now. How do I handle that or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
It's just a conversation that he give you peace about this or no, don't do that or whatever. And so
Right.
that's how you learn to lean. You got to get it out of you and not mull it over and try to figure it out yourself. He's the ultimate one. Like, you can make your plans, but the Lord has the last say, the word said.
Yeah.
And so it's just talking to him all the time and pour out your hearts to the Lord because he's listening in the middle of the night or whatever. I mean, so it's the only
great.
way I'm getting through it.
Right.
Well, we're thankful that you're a part of our church family, but we also, each one of you means something special, to us personally too. So thanks for spending the time with us, and thanks for sharing your insight with others who are going to glean from it, or are desperate for it. And it's a gift. So take us out, babe.
All right. Well, thanks for tuning in to Highly Likely with Josh and Jenaye. Say the same thing every episode, but subscribe, share, and rate it. So we'll see you guys next time.